Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back. In this video, we are looking at the Thanksgiving Day slate. Super excited for Thanksgiving. Football is always fun. Always Thanksgiving in general is just a great holiday, and football all day just makes it even better. So hopefully we can win some money on Thanksgiving as well. That will just top it off. Not only enjoying the day with family and turkey and all that good stuff, but winning some money is always some icing on the cake. So let's get started with the breakdown. Before we get into it, appreciate if you guys would hit the like button on the video. Let's see if we can get 150 likes. That would be much appreciated. You can subscribe if you have not already. Football videos every week. Going to have NBA videos daily when that returns. Less than a month, believe it or not. So that is right around the corner. Super excited for that as well. And yeah, if you want to join the team, you can visit the website, dfsprocess.net. A link is in the description. You can check out Thrive Fantasy if you want to play on a DFS site and make some props. You can get some free money by using the promo code. That's also in the description. And with all that said, let's get started. So DraftKings always has players' price tags pretty reduced on Thanksgiving Day slates. They want people to make like as good of a lineup as they can. And it's not really much of a difference. You have no running back over 7,000. You have no wide receiver above 7,000 either. The tight ends are all pretty affordable. Defenses are all pretty cheap. So it's going to be pretty easy to make a lineup now with the Baltimore Ravens news. They are going to be missing 2 out of their 3 running backs. Their top 2 backs are out for this one, so you're going to see Gus Edwards be a very, very nice play at 4,000, but there are also a lot of running backs in that similar range that he still looks very good, but it's like James Conner you can easily get to at 62. You can get to Gibson. You could get to like Duke Johnson. So we'll look at some builds and just see if you really need to get to him, but I think he still looks fine. At quarterback, you have a couple guys that I'm interested in. It's going to be Deshaun Watson is my favorite quarterback on the slate. He's been playing pretty good football all year. It's just been that they've been getting down early in some of these games, but they have a nice win last week against the Patriots. He played pretty well in that one with a rushing touchdown. His rushing numbers have been pretty solid recently, like 36 plus yards in 4 straight. He gives you some upside in that department. He gives you a lot of passing touchdown upside because they don't run the football that much with David Johnson out. Duke Johnson doesn't. He gets some carries, but they really rely on Watson to throw the ball a lot. So I think he looks to be the best option against a very bad Detroit defense that got shut out. So hopefully the Detroit Lions can put up some points and keep this game close to keep Watson throwing. But anyways, I think Watson is the best quarterback on the slate in the best matchup too. You have Lamar Jackson at 68, the second of the running quarterbacks, but he hasn't shown as much of an upside. Only 15 passing touchdowns on the season. He's only top 30 DraftKings points once, and now he's facing Pittsburgh, which he kind of struggled against in Week 8. I think I'll pass on him. Roethlisberger, same kind of deal. I'd rather get up to Watson, but he also gets a tough matchup against the Ravens defense, but I do like Roethlisberger just because he's at home. He plays a lot better at home over the past couple years, and he has better weapons to throw the football to with Juju if he's healthy, but Deontay Johnson's been one of the best wide receivers, and he has Claypool, in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. So I think Watson is the best option. Matt Stafford looked really, really bad against the Panthers, and they're not that good of a defense, so that's a bit concerning. His thumb might be bothering him more than people are getting told, but I still think that at 58 he should be in consideration as a potential play, but he's definitely like my third quarterback that I like. And then I'm not that interested in going with Alex Smith. This doesn't give you that much upside. And same thing with Andy Dalton. So with some of the cheap prices that we have at running back and wide receiver, it's going to be easy to get to Watson, and that's what I'm going to do. So Watson is the guy I'm going to build all around. Running back, Elliott is my favorite. And now that he's got Andy Dalton back, it's a little bit better quarterback that he has to work with. He got 23 touches against the Vikings, seems to get around 20 touches a game, which is pretty nice. It's against a Redskins defense that is very, very good against the pass, but they are middle of the pack against the ground. You're going to see Elliott be utilized heavily. He also gets utilized in the passing game a bit. So with there not being that many other top-end running backs, I think Elliott has the most upside. If DeAndre Swift happens to be in, then he's going to be my second favorite running back. He missed last week due to concussion. He didn't practice on Monday, but a couple days to get cleared ahead of Thursday. If that happens, he will definitely be in consideration, probably in my lineup just against this Houston defense that is so bad against the rush. Swift does not happen to return, then I think you'll probably look at Gibson as another strong option to play if you want to run it back with Zeke. He's been getting most carries in that backfield. They do use J.D. McKissick quite a bit, but Gibson has gotten into the end zone 5 times the last 4 games. He's been putting up some fantasy points. It's a really good matchup besides, against the Cowboys. Besides Swift, if he happens not to play, then he has the best matchup on the slate. Because I don't think I want to mess around with Peterson and Kerryon Johnson in the backfield, but I think you definitely can go Gibson and Elliott as your 2 running backs. Duke Johnson has just been kind of really bad carrying the football. I just don't think I'll want to go to him. It's a fine matchup against Lions, but I'd rather go to Gibson and Elliott just because I think they have more upside. And then if you want to, the cheapest running back on the slate that's in play is Gus Edwards with them missing their top 2 backs. He's going to get most, if not all, the workload. But there's not that many wide receivers to pay out for, so you don't need to jam him in. But if you want to, we'll definitely look at what you can do if you do plug him in there. Moving on to wide receiver. McLaurin didn't practice on Monday, but he's definitely going to be in. He just probably had a day off. He played the entire game against the Bengals. Continued his strong season with another 13 fantasy points. Hasn't fallen under 10 fantasy points since week 5, and that was one time all year. He's dropped under 10 fantasy points. So he should be good to go against a very vulnerable Cowboys defense. I think he looked strong. You have Will Fuller, who's going to be the guy that I stack Watson with. It's a very easy matchup against the Lions. Him and Watson have great chemistry all year. You've seen Fuller put up some big fantasy scores. A couple of games that he struggled. One was against the Cleveland Browns. That was in a very bad weather, which they couldn't throw the football that much. But other than that, he's been getting the good amount of targets. He's been getting into the end zone not every week, but 6 touchdowns is pretty nice for a guy like Will Fuller. He gives you that big play upside. And I definitely like him a little bit more than Brandon Cooks. Definitely could play Cooks if you wanted to, but I think that Will Fuller gives you more upside. I'm definitely going to have the cap to get up to Fuller, so might as well get up to Fuller. And they're going to be missing their 3rd wide receiver, so with Cobb already ruled out, you could see Keke Coutee be the slot receiver, and if that does happen, he would be a very, very nice value play. Or but I think Kenny Stills also missed last week. If he happens to come back, then you could see Stills get into that slot wide receiver. But if Stills is out, then you definitely want to consider Coutee. But if Stills is in, then you could play Stills at 3,000. And then the Lions wide receivers are all kind of up in the air. You have Amendola, questionable. Hall is questionable. Marvin Jones is the only guy that doesn't have an injury tag. Kenny Golladay practice limited on Monday. Seems like he probably will give it a go. If that does happen, he will be a very nice play against the Texans. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receivers, Juju didn't practice on Monday, but he's not really in consideration anyway when you have Claypool and Deontay Johnson, who've just been dominating, for most of the year. So I'd rather go to Deontay Johnson at 6,200. I think Terry McLaurin to kind of stack into a mini game stack with Gibson and McLaurin looks pretty good just because they get a ton of volume on offense. And tight ends, you have Andrews looked really fine against the Pittsburgh defense just because he's just going to get a lot more snaps now that Boyle is out for the year. And saw what happened last week, but it's a really different matchup against the Steelers. Besides Andrews, I'm looking at Hockenson if they're still down a couple of wide receivers to continue to get heavy targets. But I think Schultz also looks pretty appealing at 38. With Andy Dalton, got into the end zone, got 6 targets. Dalton is much better than what they've had the past couple of weeks with Ben DiNucci. So I think that Schultz is a viable piece if you want to get a pass catcher from the Cowboys. And then defense-wise, I'll probably look at maybe the Ravens, or just because they have the best defense out of anybody. The Steelers have a good defense too, but in terms of fantasy points, they have been one of the better teams in getting into the end zone. They have 4 defensive touchdowns. Nobody else on this, no other defense has more than 2, and the Steelers have 2. You have the Cowboys have 1, and none of the other teams have 1. So I think the Ravens look okay at 3,100, and then with 3,300 left, you could put in Kenny Stills if he's in, or you can try to get to Keke Coutee and go with Claypool, or go with Kenny Golladay if he's in. So you don't really need to go super cheap because you're already getting most of the expensive wide receivers anyway. You don't have to go super cheap at running back. If you don't want to play McLaurin, you could go with Deontay Johnson and try to upgrade a bit, you could try this where you kind of can get your Gus Edwards. If you want to play Gus Edwards, something like this. Maybe even go up a little bit more if you want to double stack. Don't think I want to really double stack the Pittsburgh wide receivers, but you could do something like go Golladay or go double stack Watson with Fuller and Cooks. And then you can upgrade from put Gus Edwards at your second running back spot, and then you can play Terry McLaurin if you want to double stack Watson with his top two guys. So I definitely think the Texans are going to be the team that I have the most interest in, I believe, just because I'm definitely going to play Watson. I'm definitely going to play Fuller. Some question marks. I'll probably have another video out like Wednesday or Thursday morning, just before Thanksgiving really starts, just to clear up some of these question marks, like if Swift is in, if Golladay is in, if Marvin Jones is going to be the #1 guy again. That's something to consider, but I think Watson, Fuller look really nice. Definitely going to play Zeke Elliott. I think the second wide receiver is probably going to have McLaurin in there at 7,000. And then defense-wise, I'm looking at I'd rather go to the Ravens at 3,100, I think, than go to the Steelers at 42, just so I can pay up for a couple more guys, and they definitely have some upside. So I think these 5 look like pretty strong plays right now, and if Swift is in, he'll definitely be in there. If you are feeling kind of risky, then you probably would want to consider Marquise Brown, although I just haven't been playing him all year, and that's been a good thing because he hasn't been the same guy this year, just because Lamar Jackson hasn't been the same guy. So not interested in Marquise Brown just because he might get a lot of ownership, and the matchup isn't easy, so I'll pass there. But if the Lions are missing their wide receivers again, you're going to probably consider Marvin Jones, but I want to make sure Golladay is out. But I think going with maybe definitely have one of the Steelers receivers, so maybe right now Deontay Johnson. I think these 6 look like strong first look plays. Definitely can make adjustments based on some injury news, but I definitely like the upside for Fuller, McLaurin, and Deontay Johnson. So that's kind of it for the DraftKings first look. Let's jump over to FanDuel. All right, on FanDuel at quarterback, you have Watson at 87. No surprise, he's the most expensive quarterback on the slate, followed by Lamar Jackson and Big Ben. I definitely prefer Watson on both sides to any of the other quarterback options, just because he gives you a lot of rushing upside. He gets a really good matchup, and I think they'll definitely pile up the points against the Lions. So build around Watson. Going to definitely plug in Will Fuller with him. FanDuel, they have guys priced up a little bit more, so could be a spot where you do utilize the value of Gus Edwards at 5,200, but we'll see. So we plug in Elliott at 85. If Swift is in, he looks really good. If Gibson is, I like Gibson anyways, but if Swift is in, I like him more than Gibson. You have Connor, looks okay, definitely behind a couple guys. And you could take a shot with McKissick if you want to for tournaments. But right now, we'll see what we get with Zeke at my running back. At wide receiver, McLaurin is 7,900, so probably going to have to utilize Gus Edwards, which is definitely not a bad thing. And then at the third wide receiver we can plug in is maybe one of the Steelers receivers like Deontay Johnson. Maybe consider Golladay if he's in, but if he's out, then you get Marvin Jones at only 6,000. So he would be definitely interesting. Tight end wise, you have Andrews is all the way up at 68. You could look at Dalton Schultz. Akins had a good game. Maybe look at Logan Thomas. Just Alex Smith didn't throw the football that much. He only threw for 190 something yards, so didn't have to throw the football that much. But I think Logan Thomas looks better as a bounce back spot this week. And then you can put in the Ravens defense. So something like this on FanDuel looks pretty good as a first kind of look, but depending on some injuries and stuff, maybe not play Dalton Schultz, maybe not play Marvin Jones, but I'd like the Ravens defense at only 4,100. I definitely like Watson with Elliott, Gus Edwards, Fuller, and then I'll probably get to McLaurin just because I definitely can, and it's a very, very good spot. So these 6 guys I think are going to be my first look. Swift, keep an eye on that. I like him a lot if he's in. Then we'll definitely go cheaper at some wide receivers so we can fit in DeAndre Swift, maybe fit in Gibson. But I'll be back with another video maybe tomorrow night or Thursday morning. So with that said, that's it for me. Thank you for watching, and best of luck this week.